like Clark, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Alright guys, the OWL arc is basically on the cusp of coming. It's literally tomorrow, or the Vessel arc, whichever one you guys want to call it. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm really hyped. I'm really hyped. I want to take a little bit of a break and then come back strong for the Vessel arc, and here it is. Now, the first thing that I do want to talk about, there was some opening pictures that were actually leaked by, well, not necessarily leaked, they were actually released, I should say, by the Boruto account. So if you guys look here, you guys see Boruto right here with the Karma Seal, and then you see Kawaki with the Karma Seal. I expect for this opening to be absolutely amazing. If you guys have been following the Boruto series over the past couple of openings, almost damn near every single opening has been absolutely insane. I don't necessarily really care much about the music mainly because I can't really understand the music or anything like that, but regardless, I'm just happy to see exactly what they show us in the opening. For example, are we going to get to see Boruto and Kawaki fight a little bit for possibly, I don't know, for 5 to 10 seconds of a clip? Are we going to get to see more in-depth images and more in-depth animations of other COD members? For example, Kashin Koji, possibly see Jigen activate his Karma Seal, a whole bunch of things like that. I really hope to see. Some of the other screenshots were funny as well. You got to see this screenshot right here where it looks like everybody is skating, and Mitsuki on the skateboard in itself looks absolutely weird. I'm not saying that Mitsuki can't necessarily pull off a skateboard. I just don't think that Mitsuki is the type of guy to actually try to be on the skateboard or anything like that. I think he's just more of a walk and run type of guy. But regardless, I'm pretty sure the opening is going to be absolutely amazing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are going to be happy to see it as well. Now, another thing that I do want to talk about has to be my expectations for this arc. In terms of animation, I don't really think that the animation in this arc is going to be insane or anything like that. I'm not necessarily going to expect episode 65 level of animation or the level of animation where Team 7 Foot against Deep or anything like that. I expect to see a regular style of animation. I don't expect it to be bad or anything like that. I think in terms of animation, they're going to possibly reserve that for the bigger fights. For example, the first time that we do see Kawaki fight against him, possibly also when Naruto eventually fights against the COD member Delta. So I know it's probably going to be a little bit upsetting to you guys when we do fight against OWL, and it's not necessarily the top tier animation. I personally do not care. I just want it to be presentable. I want it to be actually seeable, not necessarily look absolutely terrible like some of how Boruto's fights have actually look. Now, the storytelling in this arc is going to be absolutely critical, not only because of course we want to get the best storytelling for the OWL arc or the Vessel arc, but also is going to be an example of how the Boruto anime is going to be telling the story of the Boruto manga in future chapters. So of course these chapters right here are definitely interesting, but when we talk about the overall best chapters of the Boruto manga, it's going to be later on in the Boruto manga. For example, chapter 30, 31, 32, and also later on in chapter 45, 46, 47, and of course as of right now in chapter 50, 51, and 52. Those chapters right there are going to be absolutely insane. So of course, seeing how the storytelling is for these early chapters right here could possibly be a cursor to see exactly how they're going to do and how they're going to take care of those more important chapters in the future. Now, I really hope they're not going to necessarily do it exactly how, for example, a manga like My Hero Academia does it, and I'm pretty sure they're probably not going to do that mainly because the Boruto anime has been known to add a lot of information, a lot of better storytelling in the Boruto anime, just because of the sheer fact that the Boruto manga is pretty much all bare bones, all the important stuff, and of course the anime pretty much fills in a lot of the blanks. Now, in terms of filling in the blanks in this particular situation right here, in terms of the OWL arc, I don't necessarily expect to see a lot of filling in, just because of the sheer fact that the OWL arc on the surface was pretty much bland. It wasn't necessarily anything too crazy. Of course, it was definitely surprising. Of course, it definitely caught a lot of people off guard, just because of the sheer fact that I was actually in this secret organization called the COD organization. There wasn't a lot of things at that particular point that were a mystery that should not have been a mystery. For example, we didn't know who Kashin Koji was. I'm pretty sure they're not going to give us the backstory of Kashin Koji in the next episode when we do see him fight against another character in the COD organization. We didn't necessarily know exactly who the Vessel was. Now, I do want to point out there's definitely a very good possibility that they do actually show us exactly who the Vessel is, and exactly where Kawaki is, and exactly what Kawaki is doing, and how he did actually escape the blimp. But me personally, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I would not be completely surprised if they don't show us that, just because of the sheer fact that Kawaki being the Vessel is supposed to be a quote-unquote surprise. Of course, they're calling him a Vessel and they're not calling him a Kawaki, so they want it to be a quote-unquote surprise, even though, I mean, one of the biggest pitches to this arc is of course the face of Kawaki. They released a 1-minute clip of Kawaki fighting against Naruto in the opening. Even today, they released spoilers and screenshots of Kawaki's face with him in the Karma Seal. So of course, they're pretty much showing us that, hey, Kawaki's gonna be in this arc. It's not necessarily gonna be a very big surprise, but because they're still calling him a Vessel, I would not be surprised if they save Kawaki's face and save Kawaki until later on in the arc, when he actually does get revealed, for example, similar to where he did in the Boruto manga. So overall, in terms of storytelling, as I said, I don't necessarily expect it to be anything too crazy. I definitely do expect the Boruto writers to fill in a tiny bit of blanks, but it's not necessarily going to be too crazy, as for example, as we do do get later on in the Boruto anime, where they do start to adapt a lot more complex things from the Boruto manga. Now, the hype of the Boruto anime is probably going to change. The Boruto anime in North America is probably going to kick off. It's probably going to do absolute numbers. Probably going to be absolutely insane. One of the things that I'm really interested in is going to be the numbers in Japan. Most of you guys don't necessarily know this, but in Japan, the Boruto anime has been doing amazing. Comparable to other animes out there, it has been doing amazing. Now, the Boruto manga in Japan, it hasn't necessarily been doing that good in comparison to other mangas. Now, I'm not saying the Boruto manga is doing bad in Japan or anything like that. It's just not doing as well as the Boruto anime is doing in comparison to other animes out there. So I do want to see, when the Boruto anime does start to adapt the manga concepts, is the Boruto anime going to start doing worse in Japan? I'm really interested to see that. It might just be a situation where a lot of the Boruto fans out there and a lot of the Naruto hardcore fans out there just doesn't necessarily like reading manga. I have absolutely no idea. That's a question for like Naruto Explained or something like that. Some of the OGs that were really heavily invested into the Naruto series back when the Naruto manga was actually covering like the 5th grade Shinobi War, or excuse me, the 4th grade Shinobi War. Another interesting thing that we did see is, of course, the Hulu preview. Now, again, a lot of you guys don't necessarily know this is something that I should know mainly because I'm a YouTuber, but in terms of the Hulu spoiler, the Hulu basically shows you the Boruto animes when they first come out, but before it actually does come out, they give you like a spoiler image. Now, for this particular episode, the spoiler screenshot was Kashin Koji. I didn't necessarily talk about the spoilers yet, the actual spoilers that were getting dinosaur released yet, but I did make a video about a week ago kind of detailing exactly and specifically what you guys should actually expect in the next upcoming episodes. In episode 181, I did talk about how Kashin Koji was most likely going to be killing Victor, just because of the sheer fact that that right there actually did happen in chapter 16. And from this screenshot, it looks like that right there is actually going to be happening. Now, it's really funny to me just because of the sheer fact that when this actually came out in chapter 16 a couple of years ago, and some of you guys have probably weren't necessarily following Boruto back then, no one cared about Kashin Koji and no one cared about Victor. Now, of course, it was very interesting, mainly because they were in a brand new group called the Kado Organization that we've never really heard of before, but largely, we didn't really care about Victor. We didn't really care about Kashin Koji. The only thing that we really cared about with Kashin Koji is the fact that he kind of looked a little bit like Jiraiya. And every time somebody would upload a video talking about how he kind of looked like Jiraiya, people were just cursing YouTubers out just because of a quote-unquote clickbait, and it turned out to actually be true. And now Hulu releases like the spoiler image, and it's just funny seeing Boruto Twitter just going up in absolute flames, mainly because everybody's just excited to see Kashin Koji, and of course excited to see Victor finally die. It's just absolutely hilarious. But regardless, I do want to know what you guys think about this upcoming arc in the comment section below. Give me some of the things that you guys definitely want to see. Me personally, one of my favorite things that I'm probably going to be interested in seeing in this specific next arc and the upcoming episodes that are probably going to be adapted from the Boruto manga, Naruto fighting against Boruto. Me personally, I don't necessarily expect it to be absolute insane animation or anything like that. It's just going to be a very fun scene for a lot of us to actually see. But of course, we're going to get to see a bunch of crazy scenes in the upcoming arcs and the upcoming episodes as well. For example, Al fighting against Team 7, Sada with scientific technology fighting against Boruto and Mitsuki, Sumune confessing her love for Boruto, a whole bunch of things like that. But it's been your boy BarB, and we out.
It's a knife.